Yo, here's a really cool idea, right? Instead of trying to be an elite recruiter, how about you just go straight to the transfer portal and take all them dogs? Yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, listen, like, I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Like, I absolutely love dynasty mode, man. Like, it is absolutely insane. Believe it or not, before I used to be nothing but a play now ranked player and just trying to be the #1 person in the world and stuff. But I guess now that I'm older, I'm just like, dude, like, do I really want to be sweating it out every day, or do I just want to be more strategic, still be able to play other users in dynasty mode and play like-minded users in dynasty mode, and then literally just be more strategic and just find like ways to build a really crazy program? And this is what 2K26 is really doing right now, man. By them finally diversifying how you can build your program is really going to change. And to be honest with you, the more they can find unique ways to do that, the better dynasty mode is going to be. Because last year, let's be honest, everybody was building elite recruiter with elite motivator, and basically it was just it, right? There was nothing really unique about it. It would have been nice to be able to look at somebody's coaching tree and see that they were doing something really unique and different. But if you really wanted to be competitive, you had to go elite recruiter, elite motivator, and then basically have 2 assistant coaches that were doing the same thing. And then you sprinkled in program builder and be able to, you know, do those little things. But for the most part, that's what it was. But this year, I'm excited, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited. It's all about execution. But if they do that, there's going to be multiple ways you can build a really strong dynasty as far as a program. And, you know, yesterday we talked about the coaching tree and, you know, different type of archetypes you can use. But now we're going to talk about this transfer portal. And be honest with you, man, the transfer portal looks very fun. We know how Lane Kiffin and Deion Sanders, like, that's literally what they do. They don't even care. I remember Rick Pitino, he's the head basketball coach at St. John's. He was like, yo, like, why am I going to recruit high school kids that are asking for outlandish amount of NIL money just for them to come here and leave after I trained them, after I did the strength and conditioning, and then they leave to another program? He said, why would I do that? He doesn't even no longer focus on recruiting kids. He just focuses on, listen, he wants other coaches to do all that, and then he's just going to bring them straight in from the transfer portal. And you know what's crazy? That's a really fun idea. Like, that's really unique, right? Like, not stressing over the whole recruiting process, just really building your coach to where you can just pull people from the transfer portal better than anybody else, like Deion Sanders, like Lane Kiffin. They're really good at that. Or you can be very bullish, right? Like Clemson, and just say, you know what, we're just going to recruit players, develop them, and, you know, with the hopes that they're going to stay. And for the most part, they stay. So I love that just by them adding that little extra wrinkle is going to be fun, because, you know, now you'll see people in dynasty mode do that. You're like, bro, like, this dude only recruited like 7, 8, 10, maybe, you know, 12 people in the recruiting class. But then when it comes to the transfer portal, he's pulling in his other 22 through the transfer portal straight dogs, right? So that's a different aspect. But anyway, let's look at this deep dive, and then let's break it down and why I'm really excited about this transfer portal. And again, there's many ways that you can go about this, so I don't want people to get all caught up in it. But it says right here, it says, some schools say mass exodus, others stay almost completely untouched. That's the unpredictability of the modern transfer portal. In college football 26, we push to fully capture the essence and chaos that defines this era of roster movement. It says now you can expect to see a consistent pool of around 2,000 players entering the portal, which is really fun, man. Like, I'm telling you, it's gonna be fun. You're gonna have, you know, like for me, 32 users in a dynasty. A lot of these guys and gals are gonna have players entering that portal, and you rubbing your hands together like, hey, dog, yo, I'm about to take your quarterback. He definitely coming over here to me. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be fun, man. And again, you will have sliders to be able to dictate how many you want to, but I really think you should let it be open, let it be realistic, man. Like, you know what I mean? Let people from your team bounce, because now you don't have to worry about people being selfish and keeping their, you know, having 6, 7 quarterbacks that are 90 overall on their roster. It's no longer happening. It's not happening no more, right? So again, this is excitement. It says part of the rebalance, we also changed how you assign star ratings to transfer prospects. In college football 25, players were assigned a star rating based on their overall. Now star rating is more heavily influenced by a player's position and class year. For example, an 85 overall freshman quarterback will be scored higher than an 85 overall senior guard. Again, so it's two-way now. It's not only the overall, but it's also your classification and your position. So to me, that makes more sense. It's going to be more trickier now, right? We all know that a redshirt freshman that's 85 overall quarterback is going to be highly touted than, a senior guard that's 85 overall. So because there's way much more, growth and improvement that an 85 overall redshirt freshman quarterback can do. There's also going to be deal breakers. It says at the heart of the transfer portal, it's a simple truth. Every player has expectations, and when those expectations aren't met, they may decide to leave. Some players may have expectations you don't agree with or even find unreasonable, but that's to change the reality of college football today. In college football 26, every player now has a deal breaker, giving each one a clearly defined expectation and a choice to enter the portal if that expectation isn't met. Additionally, conference prestige has been added as a deal breaker, reflecting the mindset of a players who value competing in the best conferences against the toughest competition. But by every single player having a deal breaker, you are going to have to stay in your view roster and consistently looking at the deal breaker and looking at their meter and seeing how happy they are, how sad they are. You have to be able to deal with that week to week now. So again, it's just more little details that some players that are going to be lazy and that's not going to go through their roster fully, they might get hit, right? Because by the time you do look at your roster, it might be too late. So keep that in mind. It's really good to have every single player having a deal breaker, okay? We also refine how the playing time deal breaker works to better reflect the realities of roster management in college football 25. Players with the playing time deal breaker evaluate their projected depth chart position over the next 4 years. This helps simulate situations where a returning starter could see a highly rated freshman coming in and anticipate losing their job, but it missed an important piece. Cases where a lower rated player was actually logging significant snaps. Even if the player was contributing week after week, the system still saw them as buried on the depth chart, purely on overall rating. In college football 26, playing time now factors in snaps played, ensuring that players who are actually seeing the field properly are valued regardless of what the situation of the depth chart. And again, that's important because if you remember at University of Florida, I'm going back, but remember, Tim Tebow is considered the greatest football player to ever play. But remember, his first 2 years, he was coming off the bench behind Chris Leak, which was a absolute elite passing quarterback, whereas Tim Tebow was the change of pace, bruising, running quarterback that came in with basically, I wanted to say like gimmicky plays, but you know what I'm talking about. When you came in there, you saw like they had like that really big gator set where there was everybody piled together. He was back there. That's when they invented the jump throw over the line of scrimmage. There was just a lot of jump, but they did. But regardless, Tim Tebow was happy because he was getting snaps, right? In college football 25, Tim Tebow might transfer, right? And you're like, dog, well, I'm giving him playtime. He might be behind on the depth chart, but he's playing. So now you have that. You just got to keep that in mind. Give that. If you're lucky enough to get a 5-star freshman quarterback and his deal breaker is playing time, and you already have an established starting quarterback, you're probably going to have to just make sure you give them the necessary snaps each game just to keep them happy. You might have to eat that red shirt because if he wants to play, you got to put him out there in some way, shape, or form. But again, that's also going to be predicated on how you play and how that quarterback plays. In that situation with Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, they work great because one was a passing quarterback, one was a running. Now, let's say, for instance, if you have 2 running quarterbacks, that can also work, right? But if you have 2 passing quarterbacks, sometimes you're like, dude, like, what? I'm just switching them in and out. They do the same thing. So keep that in mind, all right? It says, even if playing time isn't a player's official deal breaker, it can still be a deciding factor in whether or not they stay. This is especially true for former 5-star recruits, high-rated backups, and most notably quarterbacks. I hope that, and a lot of people just pass up on that, but I want to read that again. Even if playing time isn't a player's official deal breaker, it can still be a deciding factor. So even more, now you gotta sit there and be like, all right, cool. So my 5-star quarterback, what he really, he cares about, conference prestige, but then you're still sitting thinking like, dude, should I play him though? Because like, is he internally, talking to mom on the phone every day? And it's like, man, like I really should be playing. You know what I'm saying? He ain't telling you though. And that happens in real life. There's a lot of disgruntled kids on the team, and the only people they really, confined to is their parents or maybe some of the homies on the squad, and ain't no one saying nothing. So the coach never knows. And I like that. So again, that's dope. In my opinion, that's dope. I like it, okay? So again, they gave an example about the whole situation with Hurts and Tua. And again, like I said, that's another prime example how it can flip back and forth. Hurts was the starter, Tua came in, relieved them. The next following season, Hurts still came back, but then he was the backup, so then he ended up leaving the following season. So you can get that type of mix, but again, it's just showing an example of you're playing both players, okay? But this is a big one, right? When it comes to evolving expectations. Again, it's different from a player being disgruntled about something I'm telling you, but it's also because of the situation. So in college 25, all deal breakers had a fixed grade requirement of a B-, and that threshold never changed regardless of how good a player was. In college football 26, we now have dynamic deal breakers, a system that actively reflects a player evolving and changing expectations over time. As players become more talented and productive, their expectations grow alongside them. So yes, you heard that correctly. You could now have a deal breakers that can get as high as an A+. It's like real talk. So instead of having a default B-, it can be an A+ all the way up. As you can see, they gave some examples of more. At first it was playing time, you need a B+. You need a B+, they have an A+, but then the deal breaker, then it changes as he starts to become, because the first one he's an 85, and then the next picture he's a 91, and now the deal breaker is an A+. So not only will you get the dynamic changing of the deal breaker, but you also will get the dynamic changes of the grade. So this is going to be exciting. Like I said, man, I'm just head over heels for some of the changes they made. But again, it's all about execution. You know what I'm saying? They got to be executed perfectly. And if you start to see trends go the wrong way, you got to jump on it and quickly do these updates and patches to fix it. But so far, I'm loving what they're doing here, man. Now we get into this whole program builder again. Like I said in my video yesterday, how important a program builder is, and not necessarily jumping and really trying to build up, your recruiter or whatever you're trying to be. Sometimes you got to just sit still and again, try to get that program builder, because it says how you build your coaching staff can significantly impact your ability to manage evolving player expectations and retain your roster. To help with evolving player expectations, you can purchase lower the bar ability and the strategist archetype. All right. And this lowers the grade threshold required to meet a player's deal breaker. So again, that is the strategist. So that's now strategists can play a big part. So basically, if you want to be somebody that's working through the transfer portal, you're gonna have to be looking at all the whole coaching tree and figure out what you need to get, because obviously strategy is gonna be one of them. It says this lowers the grade threshold required to meet a player's deal breaker up to a maximum of a full letter grade, which is dope. You can also purchase the family atmosphere ability with master motivator archetype, which makes players less likely to transfer if their deal breaker has been broken. So again, you can see how you're gonna really have to bounce around and really try to get this together. This is crazy. If a player decides to leave abilities with the program builder archetype can help. It says gift a gab, additional persuasion tips, roster retainer, increase the chance of persuading the player to stay, full refund, get an additional persuasion attempt if one of your attempts is successful. So again, that's going to be really, really good. Do y'all see? Even me, I'm kind of bouncing around when it comes to my thoughts, because as I'm reading, I'm thinking like, well, dang, So there's going to be a lot of just sit still, man. I'm telling y'all, just sit still. Or before you do anything in your user dynasty where you had to put $5 or whatever in, you might want to do some sim dynasties and really figure this out, right? Really figure this out, because there's a lot of moving pieces. Do not bring the mindset of 25 into 26, because you're going to get cooked, all right? And then we talked about a transfer portal customization, so you are able to do that. So you can adjust how many players can transfer from a single team. It can go from 0 to 30. Setting this to 0 disables the portal entirely, which that sucks. That'd be lame if I do that. And then it says transfer probability, scale how likely players on user controlled teams are to transfer if their deal breaker is violated. And then of course you have the computer, so you can really make the computer just be like year in and year out, this crazy turnover. You know what I mean? I might tweak it to where, we keep the transfer portal for users at 50%, but then kind of up it a little bit for the CPUs, because who cares about the CPUs? And, so we can have some really good talented players in the transfer portal. That can be really fun. But I want to end it on this though, okay? Because as much as the transfer portal will be fun, it's still going to be the same exact thing. You know, if you have a quarterback that's 90 something overall, and you got like a couple 90 overall quarterbacks in the transfer portal, the probability of them coming to your school is going to be low. So again, that needs to be kept in mind. There's going to be a lot of checks and balances with this system. It's going to be very difficult to go crazy. Probably going to be non-existent with having 3 plus 90 overall at a position. You know what I'm saying? Unless you are able to truly balance it out. That's probably more likely at the running back position. Like, you might be able to have like 2 90 overall running backs and a decent freshman and sophomore, someone coming up behind like that route. But to me, it's going to be very, very difficult to just stack up. You know what I'm saying? 100%. So, but yeah, that is my whole spiel for the day. I didn't want to be too long-winded. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this transfer portal? What are you looking forward to? But other than that, it's your favorite old head, Uncle Demi. I'll be back really, really soon with a banger, man. You know, when I say back soon with a banger, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about tomorrow, man. I'm out.